By the time you hit 30, you'll likely have switched jobs 7 times. That's more than your parents have in their entire life. The world of work has completely changed, and what used to work in the past doesn't really cut it anymore. Here's what you need to know to make it in today's environment. Don't follow your passion, follow what you're good at. Before jumping into what you're passionate about, there are 2 things you need to consider. The first one is, are you good at it? It's always a good idea to start with your natural strengths for a few reasons. It's easier because your brain's already wired for it. You'll be happier. Research shows that people who use their strengths every day are much happier not only at work, but in their life in general. You'll be more confident since you'll make progress a lot faster. And you might just become passionate because a lot of times you start loving something after you've become really good at it. The better you become, the more fun it gets. But that's not it. You need to also consider market demand. So ask yourself, do people actually need it or are they willing to pay for it? This matters because at the end of the day, if no one's interested, it's really hard to make a living off of it. When you line up what you're good at with what people actually need, you can keep doing what you're passionate about while also adding value to the market and having financial security. And if you're not sure about what your passion is or you have too many interests, a good place to start is just by looking at what you're good at and what the market needs. If society can train you, it can replace you. It's nearly impossible to compete with the likes of Joe Rogan or Oprah because their brand is built on who they are, not just what they do. The best way to not compete in crowded fields is to fully own your unique combination of skills, experiences, and personality because no one else has that exact mix. Think about it like this. Your interests plus mastering one core skill and maybe stacking another 1 or 2 skills, plus all while building your personal brand is how you create a category of one. A friend of mine nailed this. She's a therapist who loves baking, and now she makes videos about mental health while baking beautiful desserts. That's her thing, and it's pretty hard to compete with that. Staying at your boring job is riskier than you think. You might feel fine now, or even in the next couple of years, but what about the next 10 or 20? As you get older, sticking with a job you're not passionate about can lead to a real crisis. And this is why. When you're not emotionally engaged with what you're doing, you're not going to really put in the time or energy to become good at it. And eventually, someone who is passionate will come along. You could easily end up being replaced by someone who's younger and cheaper, and you'll be stuck without the skills to keep up. The sooner you pursue something you're genuinely excited about, the more time you have to develop real mastery. Focus on value before connections. I have a friend who absolutely loved networking. He went to every event and every meetup and was really good at building connections, but still nothing seemed to stick for him. The problem was that he didn't really have much to offer at that time. He was still figuring out what he wanted to do. Eventually, he decided to change his approach and instead focused on becoming really good at what he did. He spent months learning everything he could and then started sharing what he knows online. And it didn't take long for people to start noticing and reach out to him. And the relationships he built as a result of that were really genuine because he had something to bring to the table. So always prioritize building yourself up first, and it'll be easy to find a network when you need them. Don't ignore your 5 to 9. Here's something a lot of people don't realize. 61% of people with side hustles eventually turn these passions into full-time gigs. Take, for example, Phil Knight, the co-founder of Nike. He started out as an accountant, but in his spare time, he was selling Japanese running shoes from the trunk of his car. That little side hustle eventually turned to the global brand we know today. So while your 9 to 5 might pay the bills, it's what you do in your after hours that can really set the foundation for something bigger in the future. Don't look for your dream job, create it. Dr. Mike J, in the book The Defining Decade, found that the people with the most rewarding careers didn't follow a typical path. They created their own. And the numbers back this up. Studies show that self-employed people are much more satisfied and happy at work. Career change is the new normal. By the time we're 30, half of us will have already done or thought about making a big career change. And most of the time, this is good news because it leads to more fulfilling work and bigger pay. Take, for example, Lisa Congdon, who didn't really start drawing until her 30s. Before that, she was a teacher, and instead of staying in something that didn't excite her, she started drawing on the side. Now she's a successful artist with her own brand and making a lot more money than she had in her previous job. So if you're unhappy with what you're doing or curious about something, don't be afraid to try. It might make you both happier and more successful. If you're not online, you're invisible. You've heard the saying, it's not what you know, but who you know. And that's never been more true. Today, you're not just competing with people across the street, but you're against talent from all over the world. And so when everyone has skills, what can set you apart is being seen. Almost 70% of hiring managers say that they prefer to hire someone with a strong online brand. The more you put yourself out there, the more people will see you as an expert. You'll never feel ready. Here's what most people get wrong. Confidence doesn't show up before you take action. It develops after you've already started. Dan Sullivan's 4C's framework explains the process. First is commitment. The first step is just simply deciding to go for it, even if you feel unsure or unprepared. Now, once you commit, you'll feel uncomfortable, but that's where courage comes in. And that helps you push through the fears and doubts. And as you start taking action, you start to build capability. So you gain more skills and experience and start realizing, oh, I'm actually good at this. And only after you've gained some capability does confidence kick in. It grows as you become more and more skilled and experienced, which shows that confidence is earned through action. And there you have it. These are 10 truths about work I wish I'd known sooner. I recently came across something that said that the best way to prepare for the future is to find something you love and aim to be one of the best at it and build your personal brand around it. And these tips are all about helping you do just that. Do you have any tips for building a career you love? I'd love to hear your thoughts.